Okay, so I'm going to open up Material Editor real quick. Material Editor. And that's when we start looking at this. And I was trying to do it with this one too, and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this here. Okay, so by the way, trick about Macs, if you delete something, it doesn't mean it's gone. If it's being used in the scene, those materials are still here. You can get to them by going to, where's that stupid? This one. You can go to them by going to in the scene, and then the scene materials, you'll see that they're all listed there still. I just don't use it very much. Okay, so let's do something real quick. Let's take and do one material at a time. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to delete this. It should be fine on this one. Let's take a second here. Or not. How are you? Oh. This one should be down here. This one. I'm just going to grab all these, delete them so they're not connected anymore, and move it out of the way. Okay, so this is the material we were just using. We really don't need it anymore. You can leave it here until you make sure everything's lined up so you know that you're right. But technically, if you change this to UV channel 1 here, it's going to unwrap it like it was before. So I can just go right back up. This one I can change it ad nauseum. It's just the unwrapping part needs to be collapsed every time. So I can see both of my unwraps. But I'm going to go ahead and start with this and start looking at what I did here. I'm going to break it down first. So one of the things you have to do for homework is, let's talk about this part up here first, is we have to have a color change. So you're going to make 3 of these versions of this texture that's only going to use these 2 maps technically, and then a color change. But you have to have them as separate materials. In the game engine you can call it and you can do it programmatically or whatever, but for now this is just a cheap and fast way for you to do it, to still get the idea you're just using 2 textures. So right here we have the color map, and if I click on that one you'll see it's just a color. And I can change it to whatever I want, and it should just change it over here, so that's good. And it's basically what I'm doing is telling this material to multiply by this base material I have right here to make this a colored version of it. So basically everything black is going to not be colored, but everything white, it just multiplies on top and you get that color. So that's the first step. So I've got this multiply there. Come on, thank you. All right. So then what I need to do is share this material across my stone material and this now colored material. So to do that, I use what's called an OSL color or composite material. So if I right click and go to maps and go to OSL and then go to compositing, I can just do composite, just like that. And you'll see what I get when I do that composite material is a top layer and a top layer alpha, a bottom layer and a bottom layer alpha, and then blend modes and other stuff. I don't use a lot of this stuff. We aren't going to get too crazy in it. We just need to be able to see all of our stuff on the same thing. So, and then if you click on it, you'll see that I can change the blend mode to whatever I want. And this color thing doesn't really do anything, so I'll pull this back to there. That's fine. Or we'll just grab, oh, I hate that you can't grab. Max doesn't have hexadecimal color sets. Okay, so so now I basically have one texture going in, my alpha that I use to make my extrusions inside of ZBrush and then bake and stuff, and then that stone texture we made in Painter. So I've got that, these two coming together to make another one, and then them going together to this composite where it's going to put this one on top of this one underneath it because it's the bottom layer, and then I'm using this alpha channel. So if I take this alpha channel off, which is just a black and white texture, once it finishes thinking, it's not going to be correct because it's just going to be this texture we have right here. And that's because it's set to normal, if we look at this. So it's just like Photoshop, it's a normal texture. If I did like multiply, you would get both the textures multiplied on top of each other. And you can do this in the game engine a lot too, so most game engines. So right now we're just going to do normal. We just want the color change, and then we want the other one. The problem is that since it's just like Photoshop, the layer that's on top is overlaying it. There's no holes in it. It's just going to show you 100% what's on top. So if I went back to Photoshop, for example, and I looked at this one, even though this one's visible, it's because this one's on top that it's blocking it out. Same for these. All of these are hidden because the top one's there. If I change it to overlay or multiply or whatever, then they start showing through, and then this one have to be the same. I still can't see below this one because this one's at normal. So that's the same thing we're looking at here. This is set to normal, so we need to have an alpha to tell it where we don't want it to overlay. So we're just going to use that same texture. Again, we're just using 2 textures for everything. Yeah, we're using the texture as a mask. Yep, absolutely. Just for this version. There's a lot more we can do with it, but this is what we're going to do. So we're going to take it like that, and now it's masking out this. Really, we can get more complicated. We could put another mask in here that would do more stuff, like a dirt mask and stuff, if we had the 3 or 4 channels. Delete this one. So, but we can keep doing it. And the other thing I want you to do is make sure you're naming your stuff. So like bitmap 6 should be motif. And I wouldn't call it an alpha, but black and white. It is an alpha technically. We're using it as an alpha, but it's a black and white image. An alpha is the different channel, and we aren't doing that in here. We will probably do that in the engine. In whichever engine we go to, we're gonna use the alpha. But it's the same difference, okay? So we have this, we have our base texture, we have our regular texture built off of these 2 pieces, added into here, and then using that same alpha to say that I only wanted to show up in this place. So the other thing we have to do is come to this one and tell it to be channel 2. Now the problem with that is this one doesn't have a channel 2 on it, so that's not going to work, right? Well, let's just attach this correctly to this one. So now we've got that same thing. This is all channel 1, and because we haven't changed anything to channel 2 yet, but we still have it working. It's working correctly, but what happens if I change this to channel 2? All of a sudden, it's kind of working. Now, what's not working is the other maps, but the color maps are absolutely working correctly. And that way, I don't have to have the whole texture being used on every different base I want. In fact, that's part of your homework, is to not, just to use parts of the material on different parts of different bases. But I have it that way. So now I just need to do the same thing for the normals, among other things. I could do it for everything, mind you, but I'm just going to do it for the normal. So if I come down to the normal right here, it comes into another composite map, right? So I have the original. This is the stone texture map, the stone base layer, and this is the explicit. This is the normal for the trim that we made. Come on, go back to sleep. All I need to do is come to that trim and change it to 2, and suddenly I am back where I'm supposed to be. We're batting in all things. So now it's extruding out, and if I wanted to, I could even tell it to blend in a different way. I don't think there's a really good, I think actually I have it on screen. I could do it this way, so there you go. They each have their own blend. Or I could even say top layer alpha amount and go to 1, and now it's 100%, but really you want it to be 5 there. So we could also try and do like multiply and see what we get there and play with it. So that way you still get some of your stone underneath it popping through. Now what you're seeing is the stone from the roughness map and stuff too, but you know, you get the idea. So now I have a base that has a different UV set, UV channel for the motifs, and one that's different for the stone. And if I just copy this face, all I need to do is go to my motif 2 and change the UVs. Okay, so that's what I'm going to have you do. So I'm going to basically take this and duplicate it. Now what I could also do, don't forget, is you can come back to Max real quick and just turbo smooth it. So we get a smoother, nicer, cleaner one. It's not going to change the UVs at all, so that's perfect. But I'll just duplicate this one. We'll call this base 1, and I'll duplicate it over here. Probably could change this inner port. Would probably be smart. Base 2. And I'm going to come back into here, turn off my turbo smooth so I work at the lowest level with my UVs. Go into my UV unwrap, open it up, and go to channel 2 because that's the one that's important. Say abandon, because remember I already have my UV channel 2 set up. So I could actually, what I'm gonna do is move them from the original, because otherwise I have to scale them all back up for this one. So for to be smart, I'm just gonna say move. It's gonna move them back out so I know they're just double the size they need to be. Makes my work easier, less time and stuff. And I'm back to here, and I can just go to this again. It's just all about what's faster, right? So I'll do this, take a look at it, and then I'm gonna come in here and say, this time I'm gonna do it a little bit different. I'm gonna do it this one right here. I'm gonna go all the way for these right here. So I'm just gonna grab these. Oops, turn off that. And this. Now I want this one and this one. Don't think I want that one. You know what? I just want these two. I'm gonna grab those two so I know where to grab, and bam, grab them. And I'm gonna say break. Well, I should have done it before, but I'll break and just go 1 here. So you move over a little bit for me. Grab all of this. Turn on the whole thing here. Grab all of this. And say -1. Come back in here. So now I have this one set where I want it. And then I'm probably at this one I'll just do these. So let me turn off my back thing, go to front, look at it here. And really what I want you to do is make a few different versions of the vase. And if you're smart, you can do this UV before you collapse it, so you can just deform the vase while you're still have your UVs all set up. Let's see, so then I'll just say, just where my brain is at today, break, and we'll just say 2, like that. And then obviously I need to go inside, grab one of these, and go -2. And the interior one here, and say -2 real quick. Oops, this one. There we go. So everything I have here, I'm just gonna say, make my life easy and just do 2 of them. I'm just gonna scale these down. So again, I turn on my correct map, which should be one of those 2, and then do it so it's tiling, and then just grab this sucker and pull it way down. Like that. So now the only areas that are there are the 2 that I have. And then you come here, and this one hopefully, I'm gonna pull this bigger here. I can just do, I was looking at it thinking maybe I can just get away with this. And then let's grab it a little bit past. You want to give that nice dirt, or that edge there. So I'm gonna pull this out this way first, and then I'm just going to scale it up just a tad bit, just so I have that nice clean, non-clean edge. You know, if I do it too clean, it'll look fake. Then I'll grab this one, and this one we'll just go ahead and try and use this one up here. Just like that. Okay. Come back out, and now we have 2 different vases from 2 different textures, but looking completely different. Now, the other thing I want to do is make it one more step of complication. And notice that this is still broken because it's looking for UV1, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy, I'm going to grab these. Actually, hold on. I'm going to grab this. And I guess I think I just need this. And then I'm going to hold shift and drag them up. And now I have a whole new material that's using almost all the same settings, except for it's a different material. So I'm going to call this one red. And I'm going to come over here to this one and just change it to red. And now if I come over to this material or this object, get out of the UV unwrap mode, material on it. Oops, cancel. I must already have it read, that's right. We'll call this really red. There we go. I'll attach it to this, and now I have a new version. Again, you can get all kinds of crazy variations, and then we can even do a third one that's just dirt and overlay maps. Like here, let me show you. If I took this and did, I don't want you to do this time, but I just wanted to get you where the idea of what you could do. And again, what I want to point out here is that only reason I'm even breaking this one out is because of the color. And since this map has to come from the origination point, I can still use the same stone. I just need this one to have a color overlay. So I guess I could have, I needed this one, and I need this one to go to that one, and this one to go to that one. Though really, it's just a color change. And you'll see in the engines that it's a lot easier, but this is just a hack, the way we do it in here. So if I took this mask and I went, I think I have another one. There's red original. Let's see, map, general bitmap, and we're gonna go to this one. I'm gonna throw this in here. So if I didn't use this texture, I would do something like this. I'd get this, hold on, wait for it. This going on. Okay, so it's giving me grime and stuff. And the problem with this, the way doing this in here, is it's actually affecting the bottom layer. I have no idea why it does both when it's on the top. You would think that the bottom does that, but for whatever reason, in the engine though, it's not like that. So what you probably would do, just like if you were thinking about this for designer, is you go from here, go to maps, OSL, let's do multiply, color, and we'll say this is A. And then we'll take this one and go to B, and then this one goes to there. Oops. Here's the pain in the butt. Top layer alpha, please. No? If I did this. Why are you not? Maybe it doesn't want it to be an alpha. That's interesting. That kind of sucks anyway. Okay. Well, in the game engine, if you were doing it in Unreal, you do this. You'd multiply it by something else, or in Designer. In Unity, you just have this alpha layer as a second layer that builds on top of this layer and stuff like that. But generally speaking, let me come back and put this in correctly. Generally speaking, that's it.